everybody. This is Oops, You're Dead, sorry, from Not Just a Game, and I would like to welcome you to the first installment of Learn to Be a Better Gamer. Now, this is going to be a video series about improving your skills in certain games, mainly Dota 2 and Starcraft 2, but we will feature other games as well. So, anyways, this first installment brought to you by Not Just a Game and Team and Guild INS is going to be about Dota 2. And what we're going to do is we're just going to take it from the very beginning and break it down to its most simplest form, and we're going to continue our notes throughout the lessons, and as we get further into them they will become more elaborate and much more, how to say it, well, yeah, we'll just go with that. Anyways, so as I said, learn to be a better gamer. The game we're playing is Dota 2. Dota 2 is a MOBA game, and in that game it is 5v5, you versus your team. So each team has 5 people, meaning there's 10 players in total on the map when the game starts. Okay. Now, can't type right now apparently. And the goal of the game is essentially to destroy your opponent's nexus, which is their ancient. And you can do that by destroying first their barracks and their towers, which will then allow you to kill their ancient. Now, barracks and towers, what are they? Well, and they are also, just, you need to know this as well. Barracks and towers, it refers to their placement in a lane. And in Dota 2 there are 3 lanes. Okay? You got mid, bottom, and top. Real simple, okay? Now usually and now there's usually a set strategy, well, an unspoken strategy in regards to how many players will be in each lane. Alright, now we're gonna get more into that as well. Alright, but in each lane there's what is called your towers. Now your towers are a defensive structure, and they will, okay, we're just gonna write this down here. Towers are a defensive structure, and if you get it within a certain range, they will attack you. And the towers are very strong, so they will kill you. They definitely will kill you. Actually, there's no E at the end of strong. Alright, so but the thing is now, they are killable. They have a health bar, like any other building on the map. And another thing you need to know is that you can't actually kill the tower without having creeps attacking it. Now, we're gonna have to define what creeps are. What are creeps? Well, creeps are computer spawned opponents running along a set path, and that will be down the lane. So there's obviously 3 lanes, so that's 3 set paths which the creeps or computer spawned units are going to run down. And you have, in each wave there's 3 melee creeps and 1 ranged creep, and after a couple waves there'll be catapults too, which are mechanical. And I mean, I don't want to confuse anybody. This is still our first lesson. We're going to be getting more and more into detail as it progresses here. Okay, so now that we've defined what creeps are, what are, or why are they on the map? Why? Well, what the purpose creeps serve is so that player can kill and gain experience from the death of these creeps. Okay, so if you kill one of these creeps, or one of them is killed and you're in a certain proximity, you will gain experience. Okay? And experience is essentially how far you are into your level. And each level has a certain amount of experience. And as you gain experience, you will gain levels. So, when you gain XP, you will gain levels. Okay? And I know this may seem like we're doing the very basics, but it's very important to just start from scratch. So, like, take a step back and look at everything from a different angle. And that way, when you progress farther into mastering your skills, it'll make sense then. Okay, so there's another aspect that we need to go over when killing creeps is called last hitting, which is a very important aspect of Dota 2. It is something often overlooked too by people just jumping into the game and trying to have fun, and it is a fun game. But there are certain ways to make the game more fun, and that is by knowing what it is and playing it correctly and knowing how to play it correctly, and that way you will gain the most from your overall gaming experience. Okay? But what last hitting is it's doing a hit on the creep which kills the creep completely, meaning your damage that you inflicted from your auto attack either or your spell killed them. All right? Easy enough, okay? Pretty simple. And what happens is it will give you gold and more experience, which is always good. And the more gold you have, the more items you can buy. More and more powerful items you can get. Now, items are a very important aspect of this game as well. Items come in many different forms, but they all serve a purpose. Now, their purpose is to benefit you or to prevent enemy damage. But basically, it's to benefit you, okay? Or hurt your enemy team. And there are different types of items. Certain items will give you stats. Others will give you abilities. Others passive effects. Now, there's a lot of keywords. Like these keywords in Dota will really help you understand the game better. And when I say passive effects, abilities, stats, it's all about your game, your character. All right. So when you start a game of Dota and you need to pick your character. Pick your character. All right. Now, what character you picked has a very huge impact on the game itself. Now, it also your character defines your gameplay style. So, for example, there are three different types of heroes. Okay, you have strength, agility, and intelligence. Now, these three things, strength, agility, intelligence, are also known as traits towards your character. Okay? And every character has all three traits. But they have one primary attribute. Meaning that meaning they're focused on it's focused towards one of the three stats. And there are benefits and downfalls to each primary attribute as well that you need to take into consideration when picking your character. And also, by understanding this, you'll be able to understand better what your enemy team is trying to do themselves. And if you can do that, you can pick a hero that is more geared towards the type of gameplay style that you need. And these are all things that you develop as you play over time. You will learn these different things, but if you can define them now, going into your games, you'll have a better understanding of what exactly it is you're looking at. Because when you play, you're obviously presented with your user interface, and that user interface is used to input all commands that will control your hero, and affect his or her actions. Now, what I mean by his or her actions, I'm referring to movement and abilities. Now, you use your mouse to move real time. Okay, so you'll click the right mouse button and it'll move him to where you want to go. Now, this is important because by using your mouse to control your hero and where he moves, you can effectively you can effectively oh, sorry, I'm spelling that completely wrong. Position yourself into a more favorable engagement. So, for example, there's ranged versus melee. Those are the two different types of heroes that they have. A ranged character will have a ranged attack, meaning they can attack from X amount of distance, which is usually, 4 to 700. There's one character that has a lot more range, and that's his main. That's the part of his build, who he is. And melee characters obviously have to get close and do damage right up close and personal. So you need to take that into consideration as well when you're moving your hero around the map, because if you're a ranged hero and a melee character is running up on you, you know that he's trying to attack you. Therefore, you know that you have time to move out of the attack range, and so you'll see them charging at you. And anyways, to go into a little bit more detail about the three primary attributes, strength heroes are more. They have a lot more health. Like, for example, a strength hero would have 1800 health, whereas an intelligence hero at the same level could have only 1200 health. And that's just because the amount of points that that character has in strength. Now, when a character has a primary attribute of strength and they are a strength character, any stats that go into strength will also increase his damage too. And that's true for any primary attribute. So if you're a primary attribute intelligence ranged hero, every point into intelligence will increase your damage. Okay. You also need to consider the fact that even though you may be an intelligence hero as your primary attribute, for example, Medusa, she's actually an agility hero, but she has an ability called Mana Shield, which reflects damage. So you also want to focus into that secondary attribute. So when you're playing, you can't just buy all of one type of strength or all of one type of stat. If you spend all your money on just one stat, you may be unbalanced in the other stats and may be easier to kill. We're getting a little bit complex here, I think, and I don't want to get too complex with this first video just yet. Um, let's see, what else do I want to go over today? For this first installment. Okay, yeah, I want to talk a little bit more about the creeps. Creeps, or creep waves, will spawn every X amount of time. I believe it's every minute. And when you start the game, you and your team are all positioned in your lanes. So that means 5 people distributed amongst 3 lanes, right? So that's what I want to cover. 5 people distributed amongst 3 lanes. Now, usually the standard formation, or where they are on the formation, is 2 bottom, 2 top, 1 mid. Alright? And usually people like to play safe and they'll have 1 ranged plus 1 melee on bottom and then the same on top. And then the mid hero can either be ranged or either or. So ranged or melee, depending on the heroes that they've chose. Now this doesn't always hold true because you could have 2 ranged in a lane or you could have 2 melee in a lane, and that will definitely affect the flow of the game. Okay, so just this basic starting position and is something you need to take into consideration whenever you're playing your game with your team. Okay? So, for example, what if we had a lane that was 2 ranged versus 2 melee? Because obviously you need to consider the fact that you have your formation on your side of the map, but so does your enemy team. So you need to take into consideration what your lane formations are and what their lane formations are, so you can best determine the best lane for each character. And usually you'll just make your best guess and send your characters out, and then you'll make swaps if you need to right away, and you'll just swap characters immediately by teleporting to the correct lane. So for example, two range versus 2 melee could work really well. But if the 2 melee had a double stun, they could actually maybe do really well as well. So it's really hard to tell how the game will go. Like you can't until you get into it. Now there's also another thing that you need to consider when you're choosing to play Dota 2, and that's called your hero role. Now, your hero role determines what you will buy and how you will play the game. So, to further get into that, there are the 2 types of hero roles are support and carry, but there are also deviations like hard carry and hard support, and there's also semi carry. Now that may sound confusing all at once, but you'll get it. I'm sure if you just stick with me. Now, what is the role of a support? Now, a support's job is to safely protect and promote the last hitting and level growth of your carry. Okay? And I'll go back into that. Now, the carry's job is to effectively farm and engage enemy team, resulting in kills plus last hits and level growth. Okay? And we'll just say levels. Maybe take up a little bit less space here. See, I messed everything up just now. Okay. And levels. Alright, now a hard carry is less effective early game, but more effective late game. A hard support is a solo support who needs kills and gold to provide 2 times his role. Essentially, he could perform the role 2 people couldn't. And a semi carry is a support or carry who does very well and gathers momentum for their team. So I'm gonna get a little bit more into that actually in just a minute. I'm going to make my first break here, and I will continue in just a second.